Hey everyone, it's Tiny Tom Logan and it's back with another video for you. And today we're going to be taking a look at the RTX 3080 Noctua collaboration with Asus. So they have done a 3070 model before, but they are now back with a 3080 model. Now, this is a big old girl. It says in their PR that it's actually a 4.1 slot, but it's a typo. It's actually a 4.3 slot graphics card. It is enormous. Now, because of its size, it does mean that it's going to make, for most cases, a vertical mount very difficult. When in reality it could actually do with a vertical mount being more of an option, because one of the things I will say is its size doesn't necessarily bring any rigidity, and it could do with the support to hold it up. I messed around with this in the case quite a few times, trying to unloosen and get the card straight and like wang it right up, basically spending a lot of time trying to tweak it, but it always does get that little bit of sag at the end of the card. Now, with some of the vertical graphics card mounts, if they actually are mounted within the PCI slots at the back, you may be able to squeeze that 4.3 slot in, but just go careful with how close it gets to the outside of your case, because you're not going to want it too close there or it's going to get starved for air. Now, the point in these cards is not only low temperatures, but very, very low noise. It's got 220mm fans there, and we all know that Noctua fans can move a lot of air for the low RPMs, but more importantly, very quietly. Now, we have done extensive testing with this over on the website, which you can click the link underneath. And if you do like the video, don't forget to please like, subscribe, but more importantly, comment underneath. Whether you have good or bad comments, I actually do like to get the feedback, and I always read every single one of them as well. So, quiet, incredibly quiet. I actually have the test system set up with the case fan set to 1200 RPM all the time, and the case fans were the most, like, that's where all of the noise come from. The only way I could ever actually test the volume of this card would have been if I turned all of the other case fans off, and then you'd have had such a small window of opportunity before everything else kind of overheated. So it's incredibly quiet. You'd either need to be a dog or the world's lightest sleeper, but like I said, if you've got other fans and you rig on at the same time, unless you're going full Noctua setup, you're never going to notice the difference. The temperatures were incredibly stable. I played this section of Control and literally kind of like walked around for a little bit. There were sections where it was like lots of guns and shooting and run around and fast action packed, but I stood her at the top of these stairs and I literally walked off, made a cup of tea, and nothing changed. The temps are always very, very consistent. You kind of see like 59, 60 degrees as a top end. And then I thought to myself, wow, what I'll do is because we do some productivity tests with the graphics cards nowadays. So I did a blender run with it, and even the blender run was actually lower. And when I do a blender run, it's focused more on the graphics card. You'll see that we don't tick the CPU in it at all, although it does utilize the CPU, but it's more graphics card focused, and it just doesn't get hot whatsoever. Now, the average scores were incredibly consistent, but when you bring the graph up for the average clock speeds, you'll see that the higher end graphics cards are going to the higher end graphics cards, the averages still do beat this. I do feel that they may have missed a slight trick in the fact that they could have pushed things that little bit further. It does come with two modes. It's got a performance mode, which I tested, and then a quiet mode, which I'll be completely honest with you was probably the most pointless thing ever, because even in the performance mode, it's the quietest one I've ever tested. The fans just don't really spin up whatsoever. Cooler is so vast because it is much thicker, and they've got it. Oh, it's a 2.2 slot heatsink. It says on the back of the box. I really should have paid attention. But then the NF A12 25-inch fans. It's just like, it's huge. So performance was very, very good. But the most important thing was it didn't matter how long you played it or did anything. I use a benchmark called Unigine a lot. And normally what we do is we let Unigine loop for like half an hour. And one of the tests I did, I literally left it on overnight, shut all the doors in the room, shut the windows. And I'll be completely honest, I even put a cover over the top. Now, it did get very warm inside, but the heatsink, 62 degrees. And that was with a very artificially like suffocating test. And again, the fans did not excessively spin up at all. You couldn't really hear it. It's just one of those ones. They've done the job right. The only thing I will say though, in all honesty, is we know that there's 4000 series cards coming just around the corner, and it does feel a little bit late. And the other thing I've not been able to get out of anyone is a price. So I'm purely going to base this on it being MSRP when we quite clearly know it won't be. But I will base my opinions on it being MSRP. It's a beautiful card. It's a big girthy card. And it is very cool and quiet. It would be amazing for someone that's doing content creating, or let's face it, gaming into the night and not wanting to disturb other people in the house, children, wife, that sort of thing, or just genuinely want a quiet life. This could actually be a really good card for those of you out there that like to work and do audio side of things, but then flick a switch and then move on to gaming as well. But like I said, in reality, it is very big. It's not the fastest graphics card on the planet, and there are a lot of you that are just not going to like the Noctua brown. But at the end of the day, the Noctua brown, you look at it and you instantly know it is a Noctua fan that's on there. If it was black, you could get confused. So I get the brand identity that they've gone through with it, but I do think that they've missed a trick in that as well, because we do know now that Noctua are doing black, and they're apparently even bringing some white ones to the table very soon as well. So I'm going to be honest with you, very cool, very quiet, very big, needs support, I think, and I do think that support should have come in the box. And at the end of the day, I do think that it's a bit late in the day. If this was released 6 or 8 months ago, it would have been a much better prospect for a lot of people. But in reality, if you're looking to spend this much money right now, I'd probably say sit tight, because you're probably going to get a lot more options available to you within the not too distant future. And that would be where I go with it. Great card, but a little bit too late.